Under the leadership of our Governor, Hobbs, Arizona stands ready to meet the challenges ahead. Whether it's improving cross-border infrastructure, driving innovation, or developing our next generation of talent, our continued collaboration will only make sure that Arizona and Mexico's region thrives for years to come. So once again, I thank you all for your commitment and investment in the Arizona-Mexico Commission. Les doy las gracias a todos los presentes por fortalecer la unión entre Arizona y México. Muchas gracias. Thank you so much, Eva, for your words and for your leadership. And now it's my pleasure to introduce a distinguished leader and a true partner in the area where the Governor of the State of
de apoyo, de simpatía a la presencia del gobierno del estado de Sonora aquí en esta reunión. Quisiera, en primer lugar, saludar desde aquí a mi queridísima colega, gobernadora Hobbs. Gracias, gobernadora. Quiero decirles a ustedes que tengo un particular reconocimiento por su liderazgo, por su desempeño al frente del gobierno de Arizona. Queridísima Eva Mazariego, gracias Eva, donde andas por acá, gracias, extraordinario trabajo tuyo y de tu equipo. Nos acompañan de manera muy destacada alcaldes y alcaldesas tanto de Sonora como de Arizona. Gracias por su presencia en esta reunión. A las autoridades de Gila River Indian Community, gracias por su recepción el día de hoy acá. Nos acompaña de manera muy destacada. Quisiera resaltar esa presencia de la convocatoria a este evento, el embajador Ken Salazar. Se acompaña personal diplomático de México, de manera muy destacada, el cónsul Rafael Durazo, cónsul de México en Tucson, dentro de su desempeño, gran desempeño como cónsul de México en Tucson. Estimado Rafael, nuestro empresarios que nos acompañan el día de hoy, igualmente tanto de Arizona como de Sonora. Quiero destacar que en mi experiencia como gobernador del estado, y no obstante la extraordinaria relevancia de otras reuniones anuales de la Comisión Arizona-México, me parece que esta es por mucho la más representativa que hemos tenido, así es que nuestro agradecimiento para cada uno de los empresarios, rectores, directivos de instituciones académicas que nos acompañan el día de hoy. Y resaltar que la agenda ha sido particularmente rica. Hemos desahogado ya temas relacionados con la formación de talento humano, que es uno de los grandes temas del momento, en virtud del avance tecnológico que vive el mundo, que vive nuestros estados de la transición energética que estamos impulsando, particularmente desde el estado de Sonora, el tema de la agroindustria, que nos es obviamente en común, y abordaremos en un rato más el tema hídrico, que igualmente tiene una extraordinaria en nuestra agenda, particularmente por la sequía de dimensiones prácticamente críticas que han conocido nuestros estados en años recientes. Permítanme reiterar el agradecimiento a quienes han fortalecido a la Comisión Arizona-México como una voz confiable en la construcción de acuerdos binacionales. Hoy se honra a Ken Salazar, un hombre que ve en la frontera no un muro, sino un puente, no una línea que divide, sino un espacio que une y genera identidad. Desde su llegada a México, en el momento como embajador de los Estados Unidos de nuestro país, fue un firme aliado en el desarrollo integral de nuestra frontera, promoviendo el diálogo y la cooperación invariablemente. Ejerció su responsabilidad diplomática con un enfoque humano profundamente comprometido con las personas, mucho más allá del discurso. Por ello, diría que no es un diplomático de escrito.
For sus palabras. We appreciate your leadership and support of our binational work.
We're now pleased to welcome to the stage a valued partner to support Hobbs in this event possible. Please join me in thanking and welcoming our presenting sponsor, SRP, represented today by Molly Green, Senior Director for Arizona Government Relations and Public Policy at SRP.
Thank you, Veronica, and hello, everyone. It's an honor to be here today as proud members of the Arizona-Mexico Commission. I'm here on behalf of SRP, a not-for-profit utility that has powered and delivered water to homes and businesses in Arizona for more than 125 years. We're proud to serve over 2 million people, and we take seriously our responsibility to ensure the valley has reliable, affordable, and sustainable water and power today and into the future. As our region continues to grow, so does the demand for power. In fact, we anticipate needing to double or even triple our energy capacity by 2030. Meeting that challenge requires more than just infrastructure. It requires collaboration with our communities, our stakeholders, and our neighbors across the Arizona-Mexico border. Together, we can learn from one another and implement innovative, responsible energy solutions that benefit us all. SRP is focused on building a diverse, dependable energy mix that includes solar, wind, geothermal, biomass, hydropower, coal, nuclear, and natural gas, all working together to support a resilient and sustainable future. We're preparing the bridge for future powers and renewables while maintaining the reliability that keeps families safe and our economy strong. We're also taking industry-leading steps to achieve our goal of net zero carbon emissions by 2050. But we know that renewables like solar and wind don't always align with demand, that's why we rely on flexible natural gas to meet energy needs, especially during Arizona's hottest season. This balanced approach and helps us maintain the reliability and affordability on which our region depends. The Arizona-Mexico Commission has long been a platform for binational cooperation, and SRP has proudly served on its energy and water committees for decades. These committees understand the critical importance of reliable and affordable power and water and have consistently supported constructive regional initiatives. On behalf of SRP and the AMC Board of Directors, I extend our heartfelt thanks to Governor Alfonso Durazo and Governor Hobbs for your invaluable support in making the AMC's 66th anniversary summit a reality. Congratulations as well to Executive Director Eva Montenegro, the AMC staff, and all committee members for your dedication and tremendous success of this summit. Together, we continue to build on the AMC legacy, promoting a strong, cooperative relationship that transcends borders and benefits us all. Now, it is my privilege to introduce the Arizona Governor, Katie Hobbs. A native Arizonan, Governor Hobbs has over a decade of public service to the state of Arizona. Governor Hobbs sees her role as governor as an extension of her social work and has already moved the needle forward on some of our state's biggest challenges, including housing affordability, water security, and public education. By bringing people together, Governor Hobbs is paving the way for an Arizona for everyone. Governor Hobbs' passion to foster productive, authentic, robust relationships to enhance our economic, cultural, and political ties with our neighbors in Mexico is evident throughout her work as chair of the AMC. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Arizona's 24th Governor, Katie Hobbs.
Thank you so much. It is a pleasure to welcome all of you to the Arizona-Mexico Commission's 66th Summit and to our first plenary here in Arizona since 2019. This gathering reflects something very special. the strength of our shared commitment to cross-border collaboration. Here in this room, we have leaders from across industries and communities united by a common vision for our region's future. This year, the Arizona-Mexico Commission celebrates its 66th-year legacy. Launched by Governors Paul Bannon and Alvaro Obregón, the AMC's mission remains as relevant today as it was more than 6 decades ago. Governor Bannon famously declared, "God made us neighbors, let us be good neighbors." And in the decades since then, the AMC has been a powerful platform for building bridges, not just between Arizona and Sonora, but across North America. What began as a visionary idea between two governors has grown into one of the most enduring and powerful binational relationships on the continent. I am committed to continuing that legacy of mutual respect and shared prosperity. Together, through the Arizona-Mexico Commission and the close collaboration of our binational communities, we continue to solve problems and create new opportunities for investment and innovation. These binational committees are the heart of this organization and the driving force behind our many achievements in the course of our lives. With initiatives like our cross-border educational partnerships centered on workforce development and our strategic plan to build environmental resiliency and protect the region's shared water future, we are enhancing synergies to ensure prosperity across the region. If you've been to any of these committee meetings, you witness firsthand how these efforts are driving solutions that will define the future. I want to thank all of the committee co-chairs whose leadership and creativity make this important work possible. And to the many business leaders, educators, and community members who contribute their time and expertise, thank you as well. This spirit of leadership also extends to the Arizona-Mexico Commission's Board of Directors. If you are a member of the AMC board, could you please stand and be recognized? Thank you. I am so grateful to each of you for advancing our mission and for your role in ensuring that the AMC remains a trusted voice and respected binational convener. Thank you again. As you all know, partnerships are more than just business. They're about fostering friendships. And when it comes to Arizona's international friends, there is none more important than Mexico, our top trading partner. In 2024, exports to Mexico increased more than any other country by nearly $1 billion, with total trade reaching a record of $20 billion. Arizona exports to Mexico are an extremely important part of the state's total exports to the world. Some of the key industries driving those numbers include advanced manufacturing, agriculture, and minerals, sectors that create jobs and support supply chains on both sides of the border. Today, Arizona shines as a beacon of high-tech innovation, advanced manufacturing, and skilled talent, in large part because of our strong international relationships. And that's why Arizona will always stand by our friends and neighbors. I'm so proud of the work we've done with the Arizona-Mexico Commission since the beginning of my administration. Prioritizing the AMC has led to great success for us both. But make no mistake, the chaotic and confusing tariff policies from our federal government are damaging our ability to work together. And it's hurting Arizona businesses, which I've heard from business leaders, big and small, all across the state. I will continue to speak out against these tax hikes and anti-business policies from Washington. The upcoming months and the years ahead will be pivotal for the future of North American trade.
Sí,
Earlier
probando,
this week,
probando.
I had a strategic meeting with key stakeholders to begin important discussions around the next phase of the US-Mexico-Canada agreement. It called upon the Arizona-Mexico Commission to convene its membership, engage business leaders and experts from across the state and across industries to help us identify and prioritize key economic interests ahead of the 2026 joint review. As governor, I'm going to continue to work to ensure that Arizona
Probando,
has
probando.
at the table and is making the most of the USMCA framework. There is a lot of uncertainty. As Washington faces with our closest trade partners and as 2026 draws closer, I'll work to make sure Arizona continues its strides forward with Mexico and Canada as key partners. Fostering a strong Arizona-Mexico relationship on all fronts starts with visionary leadership, which is why I want to thank Ambassador McKay and Ambassador Salazar for being here today. In a few minutes, we'll be able to hear from them about the opportunity if we act collectively during the USMCA review next year, and the risk if we fail to do so. Everyone here in this room is doing great work to protect our economic momentum and advance the key industries that have made our relationship with Mexico so significant. I want to thank the members of the AMC and the sponsors of the summit. Your partnership and leadership make this work possible. And I also want to recognize and thank all of our partners in Sonora for your leadership and commitment. Your vision for the future complements Arizona's priorities and strengthens our ability to lead together on issues that matter deeply to both of our states. Arizona's relationship with Mexico is intrinsic to our success, and I look forward to bolstering our generational partnership together. Thank you. Thank you, Governor Hobbs, for your leadership and your unwavering commitment to strengthening Arizona's relationship with Mexico. Your words inspire us to keep building bridges across borders. And as we continue with our program, it's now my great pleasure to introduce Ambassador Ken Salazar, who we recognize today with the Tony Certosimo Award. This award commemorates the spirit of the AMC's first executive director, Tony Certosimo. Mr. Certosimo's dedication and leadership enabled the AMC to grow into the vibrant organization it is today. Individuals presented with this award have a track record of improving the quality of life of Arizonans through the promotion of a strong cooperative relationship with Mexico. This year's Tony Certosimo Award recipient, Ambassador Ken Salazar, is a strong leader, advocate, and friend of the Arizona-Mexico relationship. Ambassador Salazar is among the nation's most accomplished public servants and recently concluded his tenure as a top U.S. diplomat in Mexico, a position he held from 2021 to 2025. He played a pivotal role in strengthening U.S.-Mexico relations. In fact, during his time as ambassador, the U.S. and Mexico became #1 trading partners. Please welcome to the stage our honoree, Ambassador Ken Salazar, accompanied by Governor Alfonso Durazo and the President of the Arizona-Mexico Commission, Todd Sanders, President and CEO of the Greater Phoenix Chamber of Commerce, to present the award. Congratulations, Ambassador Salazar, and thank you for your years of service and your dedication to strengthening our binational relationship. And now, ladies and gentlemen, to join this discussion, let me introduce Ambassador Cameron McKay. Ambassador McKay serves as Canadian Ambassador to Mexico and has over 25 years of diplomatic experience. He also has an intimate knowledge of North American supply chains and trade, thanks to his former roles as Director General of Canada's Trade Negotiations Bureau and Director General of Canada's Trade Sectors Bureau. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Ambassador Cameron McKay. And we now turn to these distinguished diplomats whose leadership continues to shape the future of North American trade. We are so pleased to present a powerful conversation that couldn't be more timely or relevant. Please give another round of applause for Ambassador Salazar, Ambassador McKay in this fireside chat, a conversation amongst neighbors about North American trade, moderated by Todd Sanders.
Thank you for that warm introduction. Thank you all for being here. We were discussing last night as we looked at the crowd. This is exactly what we had hoped for. This is like what we saw in 2019, years before. So wonderful to see such an amazing crowd here to support this incredible relationship between Arizona and Sonora. Ambassador Salazar, Ambassador McKay, we are honored to have you here today, but it's no accident that you're here in such a pivotal time for Arizona, for Sonora, for the United States, Canada, and Mexico as we're looking at the USMCA and doing the review and thinking about what are the next steps. And so to have you both here, I think is an incredible opportunity for a frank conversation about the agreement. But maybe if we could just start with, how do you think the agreement has helped strengthen economic ties in North America? And I'm happy to have anyone start for that question.
Do you mind if I make a comment from up here, since I didn't see my camera?
Sure. Go ahead.
Let me, I'm proud to join the panel, and I was going to make a few comments after receiving the award, but I got to say at the beginning, and it's partly in response also to this panel, it's just the greatness of this gathering in these times. And so when you think of the courage of the governor of Arizona, Katie Hobbs, and the courage of Alfonso Durazo to be here today, you see in that this transformative courage and conviction that we truly are one family, one community. I was sitting with the chairman of the Tohono O'odham Nation, Chairman Jose, and he hands me the medallion from the Tohono O'odham Nation. And it says, as he told me just a minute ago, Mr. Chairman, together we are stronger. That's what the U.S. Mexico-Arizona Commission stands for. So let's give the leadership of all of you who are here, who make this great event happen right here in the middle of two great nations and the Gila River communities, just a resounding round of applause, because we never needed you more than we do in this moment in our history in the relationship. If I may, Todd and Cameron, I know these times are difficult times, They sometimes are seen as time of despair. But the reality of it is that you see it in the projects on the border. You see it as these two states govern the future of energy. You see it as they integrate the supply chains. You see it as they lift up the families on both sides of the border. That this relationship is one that is a forever relationship. Now, algunos de ustedes que vienen de México y algunos que están aquí conocen que siempre se hablaba, Ambassador, en México cuando yo estuve ahí abajo trabajando con el gobierno de México, que se hablaba mucho de la 4 transformación. Yo les decía en México, tanto allí como también en el Senado de Washington, que de veras deberíamos llegar a una 5ª transformación. Que esa 5ª transformación es la realidad de la unidad que viven ustedes aquí y en Arizona y Sonora. Entonces, hay 2 visiones muy diferentes. Un camino más o menos de mucha dificultad, donde se quieren construir muros, donde se quieren poner una zona de militar permanentes entre Estados Unidos y México. Hay otro camino, es el camino de la integración comercial abajo del TEMEC. Ese camino también viene la integración de los esfuerzos de seguridad que son tan importantes. Ese camino también ve el futuro de una frontera moderna, no nomás para el comercio, pero también para la gente. Y ese camino también ve una seguridad profunda para México y Estados Unidos. Como decía muchas veces en México, no podemos tener prosperidad como ciudadanos, gente de Estados Unidos, gente de los pueblos de México, si no tenemos seguridad. Pero hay manera de hacerlo como socios, como hermanas, como hermanos. Y por eso esta reunión, donde vengo yo nomás como ciudadano, porque no hablo por el gobierno actual, pero hablo como ciudadano que cree mucho en esa visión del buen camino entre México y Estados Unidos. Muchísimas gracias.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Have a good day. So, vamos a dar la palabra al embajador McKay. We're going to go ahead and give the mic to Ambassador McKay. Thoughts on how the agreement has strengthened economic ties in North America.
Entonces, muchas gracias, Todd. Thanks to the Commission. Thanks also to the 2 governors for having the vision to invite Canada to this discussion. I think it's never been more important for the 3 of us, all 3 countries, to work together to defend what we've built over the last few decades. And I want to take people back actually to 1989, when Canada and the United States first implemented our bilateral free trade agreement. 5 years later, 1994, we bring in Mexico, and now we've got a trilateral trade agreement. Just 6 years ago, we updated, with President Trump, and then NAFTA becomes the USMCA CUSMA TMEC. And over those years, the supply chains and value chains in North America have become incredibly highly integrated. U.S. and Mexico are now #1 trading. Mexico is America's #1 trading partner. Canada, however, remains your #1 customer. We're the #1 supplier to the United States for a wide range of things, from energy, oil, gas, electricity. We're #1. Potash for farmers across America who need that fertilizer, uranium to run the nuclear reactors. Better to get it, I would say, from Canada than from Russia or Belarus. And #1 supplier for a range of minerals, lumber, etc. So, and we don't just trade things with one another anymore. All 3 countries, we really do build things together. We make automobiles together. We make aircraft together. We make agri-food products together. It's just an incredible omelet that we have made. And I mentioned last night that I think to unscramble that omelet, we'll talk, I think, a little bit later about some of the risks, but I think there's some real, really some risk there. While I have the floor, I'll say again, Canada, Arizona, a very intense relationship, the number one foreign investor in Arizona, Canada, Canadian. Energy, what more can we do to sort of further secure our mutual supply of energy to one another. And there are many other, details that I think need to be discussed, among the three governments, and let's see what we can do to make the agreement even better, but don't undo it.
One of the other topics that was discussed with the meeting that Governor Hobbs led today was disinformation. Clearly, we talked about 2019, much different than today. This idea that tariffs somehow are paid by foreign governments, or that all you have to do is just nearshore everything and that will solve all our problems. How do we deal in this era of disinformation with that kind of challenge? So that's either one of you.
So let me say, I think we tell the truth. You're telling the truth here today. You gotta let truth speak to power. And the reality of it is that the strong economics that we all want in the United States and Canada and Mexico, we want it together. And it's a business community and it's an educated workforce that's gonna make all that happen. And I'll just make two comments about USMCA and the changes, potential changes that could come up. One is, you have to recognize USMCA for what it is. It was signed by President Donald Trump and heralded by him at the time as being the best trade agreement in the history of the world. Well, we implemented USMCA, and I went all over Mexico and Washington and the Senate and other places, and I told people, I think it is the best trade agreement that has ever been made in history. I was at GM in Silao. I was dealing with the labor union and also with GM. We were able to come up with the first labor trade agreement that worked for both the company and worked for the employees, improved working conditions. Those are things that we can't forget. USMCA is terrific. Now, to Cameron's response and to your question, can it be made better? Absolutely, it can be made better. You think about mining and the critical minerals that the ambassador was just mentioning. Where is really the mining capital? Some people say it's Nevada, some people say it's other places in the United States, but it's really Arizona. It's copper. It's all the other minerals that you have here, much like Canada has. But then go to Sonora. Go to Sonora and you see the copper deposits. You see some of the greatest reserves of lithium. They say lithium is like the most important of all the critical minerals. Well, they're right across the border. And so how are we going to develop that North American critical mineral independence with the great mining companies that you have here in Arizona and the great mining companies that operate on the Sonoran side, and obviously this relationship? So I would say that improvement, I think you got to look for opportunities.
Thank you. Dr. McKay, some questions?
Well, maybe I'll just point out, I agree with President Trump when he said that this was the greatest trade agreement ever. And it has helped to create, I think, the greatest trading bloc ever. And I had mentioned this in some of my remarks last night, but the North American trading bloc, the three of us together, we're the largest, wealthiest, most competitive trading bloc on the planet right now. We are more than 50% larger than the European Union and almost double the size of China. And it's only if we all work together that we can kind of maintain that priority position. I think the United States obviously remains, the world's largest economy and arguably the world's most competitive economy, is capable of achieving a lot of things. But there are certain things that, frankly, I think the United States cannot achieve all by itself. It's going to need friends and allies, and Mexico and Canada both are here to help with that.
Well, I think this group here is proof that we're stronger together. So thank you for that. Let's pivot a little bit to the review in 2026. What are the opportunities if we're successful, but what are the risks if we don't come together successfully?
Let me jump in and say the risks again, unscrambling that omelet. I think the risks are job losses in certain highly integrated industries. I think the risk is higher prices for certain kinds of everything from commodities to consumer products at the end of the day. So the risk, therefore, is a lower standard of living for certain people in certain places. And there's no need for any of this. So instead, let's turn this into an opportunity. I know that the United States Trade Representative's Office will soon be opening up for public comment, asking input, from Americans and others. for this upcoming review. And I think it's really important that everyone in this room, everyone in the business community across the United States participate in that. Let the U.S. federal government know what you need from this agreement and how can we make it better, and communicate where the risks are to your business. I think you need to be very outspoken about that, as you know, Governor Hobbs has said that she would do as well.
So thank you. Bahut?
I would just say the risks are apparent to me, right? You start thinking avocados or strawberries or tractors or cars. I mean, just what's going to the impact on both sides of the border. But I would say, if you looked at an opportunity, I think it's something that Arizona has been working very hard on, and that's how do we create a modern border, and how do you invest in it, and how do you do joint planning? You know, it's a 3,000-mile border, and you know, during my time, we did this out of Mission, Mexico, looking at some 64 projects that would really make this a modern border. It means you need technology. It means you need security. It means you need investment. It means you need environmental planning in a modern border. So how could that be done? I know there's these processes that we have to plan the United States and Mexico together. My own view of it is it hasn't worked very well at all. It takes forever, okay? It doesn't move fast. Sometimes Mexico does its own thing, the U.S. does its own thing. And so what I would do, and maybe this is something you do with the Canadian border too, and with the Marine Force as well, but we need to do these things together. Because when you do them by yourself, as has been our history now for 200 years, it doesn't get done very well. And the processes that have been set up have not worked the way that they should have worked in order for us to have a secure, friendly border. You know, I attended one of the committee meetings this morning. I was seeing the lines of both commercial and auto traffic across some of the port of entries. That doesn't have to be with our technology, right? And there's companies, including companies in this room and others, that have the way to do it. So if I was to lay out the agenda, I'd say, you know, one of the things we can do, if the United States, Mexico, Canada are committed, is we could create a border that can become an exemplar of the world, because borders generally in other places of the world do not work very well.
Thank you for that. We're going to go to a quick lightning round. This is going to be hard. One word to describe the future of North American trade.
I'm going to say inevitable. Just, you know, given how close we have already become, given the fact that the three of us, I'm glad I'm not the only one that thinks that it is absolutely inevitable that we will continue to trade with one another. I think the question for governments is, are we going to make it really difficult and expensive to do that? Or are we going to facilitate it and make our economies more competitive as we do that?
Excellent. Thank you. Ambassador?
Imperative.
I like those two. And you can have your pick here. One sector with the most untapped potential, or one policy area you'd like to prioritize in the next 2 years, and we'll start with you on this one.
Mining, critical minerals, integration.
Okay, perfect. Ambassador?
Ken, you stole my thunder, because I would say as well, minerals, critical minerals, strategic minerals, I would say, and I'm going to add energy. I think we really need to look at mining and energy, including through the lens of the review of the agreement, and how can we make these sectors even stronger.
Excellent. One word of advice for us as we leave here and we start talking to our friends and neighbors, our congressional delegation, about the importance of the USMCA. What would you say?
Can I say two words?
Please.
Speak out. Speak out. You know, say what you need. Tell governments what you need. Businesses understand how business works much better than government ever could. And if you want to take this deal and make it even better, businesses will need to tell their government negotiators what they need from it, and then the negotiators can try to achieve that.
Thank you.
Can I take more than one word?
Well, you can. I'm not going to stop you.
You know, you're the president of the Greater Phoenix Chamber. You can tell me no. But let me just say, I think what it's going to take is going to be to get a much more comprehensive understanding among the people of the United States and the people of Mexico. You know these folks. They're my friends. John Cornyn from Texas, okay? Mark Kelly from here, and others, but on both sides of the border. You know the Chamber of Commerce You're part of that, the United States Chamber of Commerce. What I used to tell people in Mexico is it's important to get the eyes of the people of the United States, including the decision makers, to understand the Mexican reality. Because I'll tell you the way that my former colleagues in the Senate see it is many of them, they see the relationship with Mexico as one defined only by crisis. It's the security crisis at the border and fentanyl. It's the migration issues and migration flows which are out of control and not managed well. Okay, they don't see the greatness of the peninsula. They don't see the greatness of these curtains of security across the Isthmus of Tehuantepec. Those are opportunities that can weld us together as a North American continent. And I remember sitting often in offices in Washington with my good friend John Cornyn. And on his computer, we pulled up the map of North America, Canada, US, Mexico. And there we were looking at, well, how do you deal with this border reality? Well, you start looking at the Isthmus of Tehuantepec, 180 miles from the Pacific to the Gulf, a high priority of Mexico. Well, why don't we join together to try to create these curtains of security, which actually will address many of the security and economic issues that are faced in Southeast, but also here along the border. So I would say speak out is one, okay? Which is really important. Speak to the reality of what the business community feels and how you're being affected. But the other thing, raise the understanding. Take people from the United States to Mexico and Mexicans to the United States. If you think of Francisco Cervantes and the Consejo Coordinador Empresarial, I think they represent 90% of the GDP of Mexico. There's some awesome companies in Mexico. They need to learn more about the U.S. So I think it's lifting up that understanding that probably is the most cardinal issue, because then we can help solve the challenges.
Absolutely. And our friend Glenn Williamson will take Americans and Mexicans to Canada. So we can't forget that. We're gonna, as we wrap up, we're gonna take ourselves out of the hallowed halls of diplomacy, and we're gonna just meet the real people here. We're gonna start with, what was your first job, Ambassador?
Farmer.
What'd you learn?
Hard work, shovels.
There you go. First job.
I washed dishes in a restaurant
What did you learn?
for 2 years. I would say the same thing, hard work and how to stand up for myself.
Absolutely. Okay. First car.
My first car was a Datsun 260Z. Does anybody remember that?
I have
The red
kid.
one.
Yes.
Because my second job was I worked on a fishing boat off the coast of British Columbia, where I grew up, for a summer, and did nothing but work every day, and saved then $5,000 in 1984, and I was 16 years old. So what does a 16-year-old do with $5,000 but buy a red sports car?
And the stereo cost you $5,000 more. Excellent. First car.
Ford pickup F-150.
There you go. Well, that makes some sense. Okay, final one, and this is a really important one. This is going to say a lot about you. First concert.
The Nitty Gritty Dirt Band.
All right, we'll take that one. Okay, this is it. This is for all the marbles.
Does anybody remember Nazareth?
Yeah.
Scottish hard rock band,
I mean,
early 1980s in Vancouver. Anyhow, that was my first rock concert.
well, on that bombshell, please join me in thanking our ambassadors for being here today and for their leadership. Would have our incredible MC up here, but I asked her if I could just take a moment of personal privilege. Our closing speaker is none other than my partner in crime, Chris Camacho, who's the vice president of the Arizona-Mexico Commission. He's also, for the last 17 years, been the president and CEO of GPEC. And for those of you who aren't familiar with GPEC from Sonora, GPEC is one of the most important economic development organizations in our state, and I would say one of the most impactful economic development organizations in our country. If you were on the planet yesterday, your phone lit up with the news that Chris was going to be leaving GPEC. And when I say leaving, I want to talk about that for a second because he is leaving GPEC. He's leaving Maricopa County, our state, and our mega region in an incredible position, much better than when he got there 17 years ago. It's hard to imagine a part of our economy that hasn't been touched by Chris and his organization. He has been a tireless promoter of our county, our state, and our country. He is going to be leaving GPEC, but he's not going to be going far. He's going to be staying in Arizona. So we are pleased to be able to have him still at the Arizona-Mexico Commission and certainly in Arizona. But I wanted to just take a moment for us to all thank and congratulate Chris as he comes up here on everything he's done.
Well, good afternoon. Todd did not tell you that I'm going to be becoming his executive assistant, so not moving far. And on a serious note, I want to thank everyone for being here today. Ava just asked me to say a few words to conclude our lunch. I want to thank the Wild Horse Pass team, all of the individuals that are here today, serving all of you incredible hospitality. So please join me a round of applause for them. I also want to thank the ambassadors that gave us an incredible real-time update of what's going on in the world of trinationalism, and really important for our economy, for our people, our citizens, our future. And at the same time, we're so lucky to have two governors leading both Sonora and Arizona in an incredible changing time. And if you look at the screen behind me, you'll see celebrating our legacy, defining our future as the key theme. Celebrating our legacy, when you think about the state of Arizona and it's just experiencing its centennial a little over 100 years ago, not too long has our statement of statehood. And at the same time, 66 years of Arizona-Mexico Commission and the profound outcomes that have been driven by these relationships. What I think is equally important, as the ambassadors mentioned, the future is incredibly bright. We're entering a new economic era, one that will be anchored to how well Canada, Mexico, and the United States coordinate and align. No better market model than what exists in this room today.